guys, welcome back to the Weekend Sugar. That was me pretending to be a singer. I'm very excited for this week's recipe. I feel like I always say that, but I seriously just am very excited and I always love every recipe on the Weekend Sugar. I'm making Kopi Roti, aka Coffee Buns, this week, this episode. If you are not a coffee lover, it doesn't matter. I don't drink coffee, I'm not a coffee lover, but I love Kopi Roti so much. So without further ado, let's make this sweet coffee buns. Alright, mix first the dry ingredients together in a bowl of a stand mixer. If you don't have a stand mixer, you can knead this with your own hand. It's going to take a longer time, but that's okay. You will just develop more muscly arms. So that was bread flour. Now we are gonna add in our salts and milk powder. Milk powder optional. It's okay if you don't want to use it. Then our sugar, and of course our instant dry yeast. I always use instant dry yeast because you don't need to proof them and they rise beautifully. So I use active dry yeast. So give it a little whisk together. Was me saying. And we also need to mix our wet ingredients together just to give it again a head start. So a half an egg and your water. Just half an egg because we are going to use half of it for our coffee topping, so do not throw that egg away. So we are going to use a dough hook if you are using a stand mixer. If you're not, you need to use your hands. So on a low speed, begin your on a low speed while you are gradually adding your egg mixture. Again, gradually add it to your dry ingredients. Once that's all in, you're gonna turn up your mixer into speed 5 if you're using a KitchenAid. Just turn it up to medium speed and you are going to knead this and leave it alone for 10 minutes at medium speed. So at the beginning, it's gonna look really ugly, like it's not coming together, but just give it some time, give it some kneading time, and it will start to form into a bowl. And 10 minutes later, it's gonna look a little something like this. The texture that you're looking for is when you touch it, the dough is not gonna stick to your fingers, but it's still elastic, stretchable, just like so. So if it's too dry, add a little bit more water. If it's too wet, add a little bit more flour. But again, the texture that you're looking is when you touch it, it's not gonna stick to your fingers. So you're gonna turn up your mixture to a low speed and you are gonna add in your butter. At first, it's gonna look a little something like this, but it's just gonna take some time for your dough to seep in the moisture from the butter and let it incorporate together. So turn it up into a medium speed for about 2 minutes, and when it's done, it's gonna look a little something like this. So when you touch it, it still won't stick to your finger. It's a little wet because of the butter, but it's still looking good. This is me struggling to take out the bowl from the stand mixer. But you're gonna transfer your dough to a bowl and cover it up with saran wrap, and you're gonna let it rise for 40 minutes or until it is doubled in size. When it's cold in the kitchen, I usually put it inside the oven just to let it rise in a warm place. So while we wait for it to rise, let's make the coffee topping. We are going to need butter and sugar and we are going to cream it together. You can use your hands with the whisk, it doesn't matter, but again, using hand mixers, stand mixers just makes your life easier. So we're going to whisk this together until it's light and fluffy. Butter and sugar taste and smell so good. Definitely one of the best smells when you're baking. So once that's light and fluffy, you are gonna gradually add your eggs to your sugar butter mixture. I'm adding it a third at a time. Just remember that when you're adding eggs, it's usually best to add it in stages, just to not overly whip anything. And once that's done, you are going to add in your flour and your coffee water mixture. Again, if you don't like coffee, it's okay. I don't like coffee myself, but there's just a subtle coffee taste, and it's a different type of coffee taste. I don't know how to explain that. It's more of a mocha. Yeah, it's a mocha. So I'm just gonna switch into a spatula and just get all the bits and pieces on the sides. But the consistency that you're looking for is a little bit something like this. It doesn't flow too much, but it's fluid, and you like it this way because we're gonna pipe it on top of our buns. I'm just gonna cover it with saran wrap and pop it in the fridge until my doughs have risen, and I'm gonna take it out and put it in a piping bag with a round tip, and you're done. So my dough has risen beautifully. It has doubled in size. What I want to do now is to just use my hands to just punch it down, knock out all the air that has accumulated when it was rising. Also, I need to prepare my butter. We're gonna fill our buns with butter. This is important. You really want this because you would have that saltiness in the middle, and then on the outside is the sweet coffee bun. It's a classic Kopi Roti taste that you would want to not miss out on. So just flattening it out into a rectangle, and I'm gonna cut 16 pieces. If you want bigger sizes, you can just cut it into 8, but my family prefers it in smaller bits, so I'm gonna cut this into 18 and into 16 pieces. So that really just makes sure that you have equal pieces of dough each. You can use a scale to measure it equally, but you know what? This just is as effective as that. So I'm just gonna shape them into balls. They don't have to be perfect yet, but you want to shape them as good as you can be because we're gonna flatten it out. So you want to have that circular shape at the end already. Pushing the dough down and then just pinching the tips at the bottom. So it's now time to fill and shape our doughs. So I'm just gonna flatten it out with my fingers, stretch it out, still in circular shape, and I'm gonna get at least a teaspoon of that butter and pop it in the middle of our dough, just like so. And what I'm gonna do is gonna take the tips of the dough and pull it up into the center. I'm gonna keep on repeating that until I pull up everything, and I'm gonna pinch it just like so to seal it. So you have to remember to keep the dome leveled off and perfect because that is how it's gonna look like on top. And pinch it really nice and tight so no butter oozes out while it's baking. So it's gonna look a little something like that. You have a smooth dome top, and the pinch parts are gonna stay at the bottom so no one really can see it. So again, flatten it out with your fingers, pop a bit of butter on the middle, and taking the sides, pulling up to the center and pinching it together to seal the buttery goodness inside. So this is gonna rise up beautifully. We're gonna let this rest for, again, 40 minutes until it is doubled in size. And once that's done, we are gonna pipe in the coffee topping. This is gonna be the outer crust of our buns. This is how you are going to pipe your coffee fillings, your topping, in a swirling motion, and make sure to leave at least an inch of dough that is not covered by your topping, because your dough is gonna ooze out, it's gonna fall down and cover your buns. So you don't have to cover the entirety of the dough, just the top parts of it, and leave at least an inch of dough at the bottom. I'm quite slow at this and making sure that all of the upper parts of the dough are covered. So if I missed anything, I'm just gonna go back to it and cover it with more of the coffee topping. So do that for all your buns, and it's gonna look a little something like this. You're gonna bake it for 18 minutes at 420 degrees Fahrenheit on your oven. It's gonna brown up, and when it's done and cooled, it's gonna look a little something like this. So sure to leave at least 1 to a half inch of dough that is not covered by your coffee. But if this happens to you, just trim off the sides. Guys, thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you like this Kopi Roti recipe. It's delicious. You have that crispy outside, and then on the inside the bread is soft and fluffy, and then there's a tinge of salty taste to it because of the butter that we filled into it. And the printable recipe is up on my blog, theweekendsugar.com. Links down below. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more weekly videos, and click on these pictures above. Click on the videos on the screen to see some of my previous videos. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!